Hello, ladies and gentlemen of my subscriber base. I hope you all have been doing well. I know it's been a little while since I've just kind of talked about an issue going on in the game industry. I mean, I guess you could argue that my videos about what I do or don't want in Star Wars Battlefront could constitute that. But this video is going to be about very troubling trends that I've kind of seen in the game industry lately. And it's inspired by a bunch of different videos that I've watched on YouTube, and it made me feel like I just want to add my 2 cents to this. So, the videos that kind of inspired me, and I want to make sure I cite the right people here. So, Angry Joe. A lot of you probably watch Angry Joe, or at least a fair number of you probably know who he is. So, Angry Joe's video on Battlefield 4, and essentially how it didn't work. I mean, it's his angry rant, really. I don't even know if he ever did. I think he did a formal review, but it's his angry rant on Battlefield 4. You can look that up easily. You should watch it. It'll give you a good idea of what's going on. And also his review of Hardline, Battlefield Hardline, and all of the glitches and the game crashing and all of this stuff. Some of you may also be familiar with the character Francis online. He's this really big dude who, it's a character that this guy plays. He's a really big dude, and he's angry. He yells all the time. If you know who he is, you know who I'm talking about. I'll just post a video below. And the last video that inspired this is by K-Liquid TV. And it's about Madden Ultimate Team. So what do these things all have in common? These videos are all ranting about severe bugs in games, game-breaking bugs, pretty much, in games that have been released and people have paid full price for, $60 for. But there's something I noticed that's more severe. Now, a lot of people, well, this debate over glitchy games and patching is not new. I've always been on the side that it's not okay to release a glitchy game, and then just patch it a week later. Some people say, oh, well, it doesn't matter if the game's that glitchy. No big deal. Everyone just has the internet and will get the patch. But the problem is, well, a couple things. The first problem is, no, you're assuming too much. Not everyone goes online, especially not with their console. I know even after I started being on YouTube, it took me a couple years before I really got a good internet connection, good enough to game on. Because there's a world of difference between an internet connection that you can upload a YouTube video on even, let alone just load a YouTube video to watch or comment on, and an internet connection good enough to game on. Because if you're watching a YouTube video and you have to wait for it to buffer, that's annoying. However, you can do it. And you all know that. And other people just don't choose to connect to the internet very often. Like, now my PlayStation could connect to the internet just fine. However, I've personally not chosen to do that for a long time just because I'm not a big online gamer. Now, I could go on to get patches, and I do occasionally do that. So it's not that it affects me personally so much. But when people always bring up this defense of, well, don't worry about it, it'll be patched in, a week or two. A lot of these videos really brought up something. I always felt that argument begged the question, what if it never gets fixed in a patch? That argument relies on this faulty assumption that if there's a problem with the game, it will be patched, rather than just it might be patched, and there's a world of difference. That's where all these videos come in. It's absolutely crazy. So in the videos by Angry Joe and Francis, they mention how Battlefield 4 didn't get fixed very quickly. It did eventually, but it took months. Now, does anyone out there want to play a game for months that has major flaws? Do you want to pay full price for a game? I mean, do you think you deserve that? I don't understand the people defending. I guess if you have a great internet connection, you can always download the patches, and you only get games from really high-level companies who will patch it. Maybe, but do you think you deserve that? I don't get it. I mean, you're paying full price. It's not like it launches at $40 with the understanding that the game's not done yet, and then you can get the patched version later for $60. That might be okay, but it's $60 from the beginning. And not to mention, the video from Francis pointed out, they announced, first, for background, Battlefield 4 came out, and then Battlefield Hardline. Francis mentioned in his video that it had been 8 months after Battlefield 4 came out that they announced a release date for Battlefield Hardline, or they at least announced the game. I don't know if it had a formal release date. Did they give an estimate? Do you think they're really focusing on patching their old game when they've already started to do the publicity for a new one? And not to mention, you have games now that come out every year. Think Call of Duty, think Madden. If it even takes like 3 or 4 months, they've already started working on the next game. They're not worried about you anymore. They're worried about the next game. Especially if companies like EA that just want to make money. Which, I know, they're a company, but their business practice has been criticized up and down. Maybe I'll do that in a video someday. Same thing mostly goes for Activision. But I'm sure most of you all are already familiar with that. So their focus is obviously not going to be on these old games and fixing them. And with smaller games, I just have to ask, what if the publisher or what if the developer goes out of business? I mean, that's not a huge thing right now, but I remember a couple years back during the financial collapse, companies were going out of business left and right. Obviously, EA will be fine. Ubisoft will be fine, although I'm not sure they deserve to be. For the time being, Konami will be fine, although I've got to make a video on that someday. But what if they're not? What if you get a game from a smaller company and it's not fine? The company goes under in 5 months and they haven't fixed all the glitches. They haven't fixed all the bugs. What are you going to do about it? You already paid for it. You know, there are a whole series of bad things that happen when you act like it's okay to get a game that's not done yet, basically, where the glitches and bugs haven't been ironed out. Let alone when, on top of that, you bring paid DLC to the mix. You know, let alone, let's not even get into glitchy DLC, because that's definitely a thing, but I don't think anyone really defends that. But what if you buy the DLC and then the core game never gets fixed? You buy the DLC because, I mean, you figure, hey, you know, this game's gotta get fixed, right? Sometime it'll get patched. But then what if it doesn't, and you already bought like $20 of DLC? God, you'd feel like an idiot. But you kind of, I won't say deserve it, but you've made a very foolish decision. We have to demand better. Okay, and then, regarding the video from K-Liquid TV, in Madden Ultimate Team, now this is a perfect example. This is a perfect storm of things going wrong. You have a game with serious glitches, and it's only a year until the next one comes out. This video was made a couple months ago, and it showed what I would consider game-breaking glitches online. Now, as for paid DLC, I would say that you do have paid DLC in a sense. If you don't know what Madden Ultimate Team is, it's an online mode, and basically you gain tokens which you can then redeem basically for players, better players. I know it's a little bit more complicated than that, but basically you redeem tokens for players. If you want to get a really good team, you need to pay to get a lot of tokens. Or you can earn them more slowly through playing games. Just normal games, you get a certain number of coins for winning. But the problem is, this video was made like 3 months ago, and it shows game-breaking glitches, in my opinion, game-breaking. It shows a glitch where a player can start from a standstill and consistently block an extra point kick. Now, if you know American football, that nearly never happens. You know, and blocked field goals, same thing, which almost never happens. This guy, I believe, successfully blocked an extra point and a field goal, and almost blocked 2 others. This is something that just doesn't really happen at the professional level, which is what Madden is. In American football, it doesn't happen. And you can tell it's not realistic. It's a glitch. Even worse than being able to consistently block kicks was an automatic onside recover, basically. You can watch the video for yourself, and I highly recommend it, but the long story short is that there's a special type of kickoff where you can get the ball back. In this game, you can glitch it so that you kick the ball right towards one of the players in the front. He automatically turns around to get the ball, because normally you kick the ball really far, and, you know, you go back and recover the ball. So the player automatically turns around. The ball then hits him in the back of the head and bounces back to the team who kicked it, basically automatically guaranteeing that they'll get the ball back. This is obviously not something that happens in real life, or they would do that every single play. Point is, this is terrible, and this was like 3 months ago. The next Madden game, I think, comes out in like a couple weeks. So it's safe to say that for at least 8 months, 2/3 of the time that this is the newest Madden game, it didn't work online. And people complain about other problems too. This is absurd. Why would you put up with this? And again, it begs question, what if they never get fixed? What if the patch never fixes these problems? I mean, I don't know if that problem is still around. It may very well still be around. I'm sure there are some problems that are. But we know for a fact, we have on video terrible flaws in this game. I mean, consistently blocking kicks that almost never get blocked in the real world. Getting the ball back almost automatically. It's absurd. It's a broken game online. Never mind all the scamming that goes on. But, so, you paid for basically the DLC to get all these characters. You paid $60 for the game. And maybe you get a couple months of glitch-free gameplay. How is this okay? Now, I mean, people could stop buying Madden. That's about the only thing that'll lead them to fix it. But with a game that has obviously it's going to keep coming out every year. It has a track record of coming out every year. Roster updates, whatnot. It's going to keep coming out every year. But also games like Call of Duty would suffer from the same problem. There is simply not enough time in a year to make a good game, first off. But second off, to patch an old game while simultaneously making a new game. Come on, no one out there can honestly say that you think they care primarily about patching an old Madden game when a new one's coming out in like a month. That's not how it works. And the last thing, in terms of reviewers, it drives me crazy when reviewers mention, like, oh, I'm sure it'll be patched. I know it's a hard situation for a reviewer. I've been thinking of how I would deal with it. What would I do if I had a really glitchy game, but I thought that it would probably be patched? But it's an impossible situation for a reviewer to do a good job, in my opinion, because I only see two options. If you don't consider the glitches, and you assume that the game will be patched, then you're basically reviewing a game that doesn't actually exist, or at least doesn't exist yet. You're assuming that the glitches you encountered should not be counted in your review, because they'll be patched. But again, I've already shown, what if they aren't? Then you have essentially misleadingly reviewed a game that doesn't actually exist. On the other hand, what if you do include them? Well, I guess then we get into a problem of, why do reviews exist? I think they exist to give consumers information and help guide consumers towards an intelligent purchase. But what if the game does get patched, and you reviewed it with all the glitches and gave it like a 5 out of 10? But it gets patched to a point where it's maybe like an 8 out of 10 game. If consumers look at your reviews, and it's the old 5 out of 10 review, they're probably not going to get the game. Even though it's a game that they actually would have liked with the patch. So then you have kind of reviewed a game that no longer exists. Do you all see what I'm getting at here? It's a problem. And what's a reviewer going to do? Because, I mean, you aren't going to go back and review the game again with the patch. I hate to use a meme to describe that situation, but ain't nobody got time for that. Seriously, though, ain't nobody got time for that. No reviewer's going to go back when they're in the middle of playing Fallout 4 and say, oh man, you know what? They patched Madden 15. No one's going to do that. That doesn't happen. So all in all, the point of this video is just to talk a little bit about how far the game industry has fallen, in a couple ways, in my opinion. It doesn't mean this is the only video I'm going to make on this topic. Pretty much guaranteed I'm going to make another one. But, I mean, this is meant to just go out to kind of all those people who say, don't worry about it, it'll be patched. This is why I severely disagree with you all. I mean, I know you all in your world, your experience is probably that they all got patched fine, but that's not always going to be the case. So I would encourage you not to buy into that argument. I think that you're mistaken. And that's all I've got to say for now.